Hello. When I was asked if I wanted to participate in this debate, I nearly said no. First of all, it required speaking in front of a large group of people, which as a print journalist isn't generally my thing. Secondly, I'm curious that this is still an issue that we're debating at all. 100% of New South Wales is in drought. Out-of-control fires have been burning across the state in winter. The Arctic's strongest sea ice has broken up for the first time on record. Europe, North America, Japan are battling heat waves and wildfires. Parts of India have been hit by their worst floods in more than 80 years. And those are just stories from the last couple of weeks. Now, some of you might want to point out that we can't attribute single events to climate change. But we know that warming increases the likelihood that extreme weather events will occur, and it increases their frequency. Climate change is playing out around us right now. We know it is. This is not a problem of the future anymore. It is actually happening, and we are running out of time to do something about it. So, is it too soon to ditch fossil fuels? Of course it's not. If you're the Great Barrier Reef, it's not too soon. If you're a farmer in Queensland or New South Wales, it's not too soon. If you're an elderly person, among the most vulnerable members of our communities during heat waves, the deadliest type of natural disaster in Australia, it's not too soon. If you're a species facing extinction because of climate change and habitat loss, it's not too soon. I'd written a draft of this speech last week, but then the NEG collapsed. We had a leadership change again, and who knows where our climate change plan is again. So I took that draft and threw it onto the bonfire that is Australian environment policy. As the government was falling apart last week, my sister actually sent me a message to say that she had a bottle of hair conditioner that had outlasted our last 5 prime ministers. I'm not necessarily suggesting this bottle of Redken as our alternative PM, but if we get desperate, it could be something to think about. We have been having the same conversation for a decade. I have similar feelings about the Australian climate debate to what I do for the TV series Big Bang Theory. And that is, I flick on my television and think, holy crap, this show is still going. Of course, a crucial difference is the characters in that series perhaps have marginally more respect for science. I'm not a scientist, but I could not do my job if I didn't speak to scientists or read their work most days. And what does the science tell us? It tells us we've got a thing called a carbon budget. Now, governments in this country love talking about budgets, so this shouldn't be difficult to grasp. Taking a few shortcuts, I've only got 8 minutes, but that budget tells us that as a planet we had 790 billion tonnes of carbon we could emit from 1870 if we wanted just a 66% chance of meeting our 2-degree Paris target. We've got about 215 billion tonnes of that left, and we're currently emitting at a rate of about 10 billion tonnes a year. That leaves us with 2 decades, which isn't much. Our existing fossil fuel resources, that is excluding any new development, are already more than we can burn if we are to stay within that budget. And just to make things a little bit worse, there's forthcoming research that suggests the weakening of ecosystems because of warming that is already occurring might cut that remaining budget by half again. We are running out of time. We have been faffing about on this for too long, and the planet cannot afford it. One of my great frustrations is that we have allowed the public conversation about climate change to treat the subject as a matter of opinion. Former leaders type out press releases referring to experts in quotation marks, as if expertise and craft and decades of dogged peer-reviewed research and professionalism by our scientific community were something to fear and mistrust. What other class of professionals has been denigrated so much? I don't know about you, but if my sole aim was to impose my worldview on society, I can think of more efficient ways of doing it than completing multiple degrees, a doctorate, and slogging it out grant to grant while I honed my skills in a highly specialised subject area. I would probably just become a politician or a journalist. Climate scientists exist to put unbiased information on the table to support policy making. We have ignored their advice that we need to decarbonise our economies for too long. In the Australian sphere, we've allowed the dialogue to be held hostage by a small group of individuals who would have us believe this is a debate about electricity prices and retail politics. They do so in the face of evidence that bringing renewables into the system brings power prices down. They do so in the face of data showing Australians want their leaders to take action on climate change, even if it comes with a financial cost. Enough. This is the why bother approach to climate policy, and the consequences, if it's allowed to continue, will be unforgivable. 7 of Australia's 10 warmest years have occurred since 2005. 2017 was our 3rd warmest, despite the absence of an El Niño. It is time to return the conversation to what this is actually about: the environment. I cannot recall another time, in my lifetime at least, when the environment has been treated with such political indifference. Energy policy gets discussed on the floor of our parliament, and the environment barely rates a mention. Departments responsible for keeping our precious places safe have their budgets gutted. Ending the fossil fuel era is not about ideology. It's not part of a culture war, despite attempts to convince us otherwise. And transitioning to a clean economy should not be something you're only prepared to do if it won't cost you an election. The stakes are too high, and it is time communities started demanding that their representatives aim higher. This is about public interest, it's about public health, it's about public safety. It's the air we breathe, the water we drink, and our places of leisure. It's about survival for many species, including, at some point, our own. We need to break out of our selfishness and recognise that preserving a livable planet for the generations that come after us is not just an aspiration, it is our job. We are tenants here. Every country needs to do its part in keeping fossil fuels where they belong, in the ground. Australia has a great history of rising to challenges and reaping the benefits when we do. And while it might not currently feel like it, we have a history of making decisions with the aim of protecting our environment, regardless of political persuasion. The party that currently governs us gave us our national environment laws. They gave us our first Commonwealth marine parks, including the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. These are great achievements. On this most critical issue now, it is time for people to start asking our leaders and representatives, where are you? A week or so ago, Tony Abbott said we need to make energy policy a contest. He's right in a sense about it being a contest, it's just not the contest he thinks. It's a contest of vision, of imagination, of invention, of courage, of leadership, and long-term thinking that does not get distracted by attempts to veer it off course. And to be blunt, if you're not up for it, what are you doing in Parliament? The transition to a zero-emissions economy can be managed if we have a schedule, a transition plan for communities, policies to engage affected workforces and bring in new industry. It's a transition that has already started, and Australia, with our wealth of natural energy and scientific, engineering and technological expertise, can be a leader. We are in a contest where the only opponent is ourselves. It's a choice between a world that is livable and one that isn't. I have a nephew. He's already lived through 2 prime ministers, 2 mass coral bleachings on the Great Barrier Reef, and a winter bushfire season. He's not even 2. Imagine a future in which you have to look your adult children or their children in the eye and explain what you did. Is it too soon to ditch fossil fuels? No, but it's very nearly too late. Thank you.